Welcome to No Longer Conformed. I'm Erik Garthe, and we are studying The Road to the Cross, Bible bits from Mark. In this session, we'll be looking at Mark chapter 5, verses 1 to 43. Pray in faith. All prayers have three ingredients: the actual petition, the internal desire, and the results. And all three can be different. Let's turn to the drama of Mark chapter 5. The main players in the drama are the demons, the demon-possessed man, and Jairus. Consider for a moment their requests. First, there was the request of the demons. Look at verses 1 to 13. Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs. And no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped, and he cried out with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, unclean spirit." And then he asked him, "What is your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Also, he begged him earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. Now, a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, "Send us into the swine that we may enter them." And at once Jesus gave them permission. And then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. The request of the demons was to enter the swine. But what they really wanted was safety from Jesus. They ended up in hell anyway. Luke 8:31 gives clarity to verse 10. And they begged him that he would not command them to go out into the abyss. Then second, there was the request of the healed man, verses 14 to 20. And those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. Then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him who had been demon-possessed and about the swine. And they began to plead with him to depart from their region. And when he got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him that he might be with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he has had compassion on you." And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled. The request of the healed man was to be with Jesus, but he really wanted to serve Jesus, but he just didn't know how to do it. And the Lord answered his desire. And then third, there was the request of Jairus. Again, verses 21 to 24, and then later on in 35 to 43. Now, when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him, and he was by the sea. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live." So Jesus went with him, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him. And then if you drop down to verse 35, while he was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher any further?" As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid, only believe." And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw the tumult and those who wept and wailed loudly. When he came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and mother to the child and those who were with him and entered where the child was lying. And then he took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kumi," which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." Immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and said that something should be given to her to eat. The request of Jairus was for his daughter to be healed, and that was exactly what he wanted and desired. Listen, the closer your heart is to Jesus, you get what is asked for. 1 John chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. Now this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him. John chapter 15 and verse 7, "If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire and it shall be done for you." John 14 verse 13, "And whatever you ask in my name, that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son." John 16 and verse 24, "Until now you have asked nothing in my name. Ask and you will receive, that your joy may be full." What is the principle here? God is moved by faith. Take another look at Mark chapter 5. Look at verse 36. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid, only believe." In the middle of Jairus' story, there was a woman who desired healing from Jesus for herself. Verses 25 to verse 34, just stuck right there in the middle of that story. Now, a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment, for she said, "If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Immediately, the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But his disciples said, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see her who had done this. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." Jesus told the woman that her faith healed her. Your faith has made you well. Well, let me ask you, how right is your heart? Do you pray the perfect will of God and receive it? Again, John 15:7 reads, "If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire and it shall be done for you." It's about abiding in Christ. It's engrafting his word. James chapter 1, verse 21. "Therefore, lay aside all filthiness and overflow of wickedness and receive with meekness and the implanted word which is able to save your souls." Listen, we have to change to conform to what God calls us to be, the image of Christ. Romans chapter 12 in verse 2 reads, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." As we follow Jesus on this road to the cross in these messages, I encourage you to think about all this. And you have a great day.